His competitive drive is as much as we've ever seen from any NBA player, but the ever-evolving and improvement as a leader. He's never sometimes not been the easiest guy to play with, but that evolvement has been so huge for him and for this team.
Absolutely, and guys responded to that evolvement. You talk about Kobe Bryant, we asked him the question, does this mean more than winning it with Shaq? And the answer is yes. He's not going to say that, but absolutely, because this is his first time winning it where he is the clear-cut man on the team. And he's done an outstanding job of leading this group from day one.
That's what he said. It's an honor to lead this team. Nice little ball fake, and Walton banks it in.
My question is, I think it's overplayed how hard he was to play with. I mean, I'm watching this guy play basketball. To me, he plays as a person who makes a three. He plays hard. He works hard in practice. When he's single covered, he goes for and takes a shot. When he's double covered, he's passing. I think a lot of that about him not being a good teammate has as much to do with the guys he played with.
I don't know if some people think a good teammate, rather he can be hard on his teammates when they don't perform at his level, and that's what has made him in many ways a good leader, by pushing them to play harder, to be a better player.
Yeah, that's to me called leadership.
All we gotta do is keep coming. Push hard these next 3 minutes. Push hard these next 3 minutes. Let's make our run.
And you know the point to be made? If you go out and compete the same way that this guy competes, in practice and in game situations, he's not a problem to you because he demands that you...
Right, like so, why do he and Fisher get along so well? It's because Fisher, at a totally different level of talent and skill, competes every bit as hard as Bryant. He'll have problems with the guys, and rightfully so, just like a coach would, guys who compete to a point, but maybe not as hard as necessary to win it all.
And a great example of that was what happened in the summer. All these NBA All-Star players, from Dwight Howard to LeBron, Dwayne Wade, all talked about Kobe Bryant's work ethic. Here's some of the hardest working, most talented players in the league, and they looked at him as an example.
What do you think about it?
As he puts up a three, in and out, and a loose ball foul called on Austin.
You think about it, LeBron James wants to win like Bryant does. You know, they're chasing this guy's greatness. This guy is Machiavellian by any means necessary. He is a throwback. And so if you're around other great players who aspire to be at his greatness, there's no question that they're going to enjoy playing with him.
What Lamar Odom said as Odom goes to the free throw line, you know, they were asking Odom about Kobe Bryant and his 8 assists or 8+ assists in each of the last 6 games. Odom said that if Kobe Bryant wanted to be the best point guard in the NBA, concentrate on distributing and not scoring, he would be the best point guard in the NBA.
And I agree, he has no flaws. Now that's not going to allow this team to be as efficient or as good as they would be. But here's a guy that has no flaws as a basketball player. And what I love most, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, this guy's tank will be on E with the light beaming bright.
And it all started in terms of the championship for this season as Lewis launches up a three and puts that in. It all started with that Game 6 loss in Boston right after. It was an embarrassing loss. It was one where the Lakers had to watch the Celtics celebrate on their home floor as they were walking off, green confetti falling on their heads. Embarrassed by 39 in Boston as Gasol misfires. And they vowed to get better. They vowed to get tougher. They had their share of tests this year. In fact, during the playoffs, they were questioned quite a bit how they handled some of the games against the Houston Rockets, but Bryant kept saying it was going to make them stronger. And evidently it did, as Lewis knocks down the three.
I got people that were upset with me in putting Kobe Bryant into discussion with Michael Jordan. At the end of the day, just look at this guy's body of work. Look at the great players and listen to the way that they acknowledge that he's the best. It's incredible.
Ball deflected out of bounds with 3:22 remaining.
Listen, you can at least you can have a legitimate conversation about that.
When history unfolds before our eyes, It usually takes time for perspective to place the event in its proper context. When the Los Angeles Lakers defeated the New Jersey Nets for their third championship, we all knew that we were watching history, but we had just seen this happen twice. The Chicago Bulls had three-peated twice, winning their sixth title just 5 years prior. The question was, at the time, can they, meaning Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, get 6 rings? Of course, we know that that didn't happen. Shaq went on to team up with Dwayne Wade in Miami and win a championship. Kobe went on to go back-to-back with Pau Gasol. Kobe's Lakers would be awful in the 2004-2005 season, but would progressively improve. That progress would culminate in the 2010 Game 7 win over the Celtics. As Bryant triumphantly ran around the Staples Center floor, no one noticed that what was being done had not been done in professional team sports in decades. In general, it takes 2 Hall of Famers playing in their prime to win the NBA championship. The 2011 Mavs, the 1993 Rockets are exceptions. Every other champion has had 2 Hall of Famers playing at least at all-star level. There are no repeat champions that did not have at least 2 Hall of Famers. There are players that repeated as champions with 1 Hall of Fame teammate and then went on to win another title with a different teammate, LeBron James, John Havlicek, and Shaquille O'Neal. But no one, not even the great Bill Russell, defended titles with different Hall of Fame teammates. Let's examine. Russell won 10 of his 11 titles with Sam Jones, who was in his prime, one of the great scorers in the league. Jordan, of course, won all 6 of his titles with Pippen. LeBron James defended a title with Wade in Miami and could not defend the 2016 title in Cleveland. Wade won 2 titles with James and then 1 with O'Neal. O'Neal won 3 with Kobe, but only 1 with Wade. John Havlicek won 6 with Russell and then won 2 out of 3 with Dave Cowens between 1974 and 1976, but did not repeat. Interestingly, Havlicek likely was a game away from repeating again, as he was injured in Game 7 of the 1973 Eastern Conference Finals after an historic 68-win season. Magic Johnson won all 5 of his titles with Kareem Abdul Jabbar. Kareem won 5 with Magic and 1 with Oscar Robinson. Larry Bird won all 3 of his titles with Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale. Now, I use the word lead. Technically, Dennis Rodman did do it. Rodman went back-to-back with the Pistons, then three-peated with the Bulls. It's hard to say that Rodman led the 1989 Pistons when he wasn't a starter and wasn't an all-star. Furthermore, he wasn't an all-star on any of the three-peat Bulls teams he played on. Now, on this platform, I have extolled the importance of defense to a championship team. With that said, roughly 6 to 9 forwards and centers from each conference are elected to the All-Star game each year. In 4 of Rodman's 5 championship seasons, the league did not elect him as one of those big men. This is distinct from Bill Russell, who was a perennial All-Star. Tim Duncan famously won 5 titles but never defended a title, and 4 of them were with Tony Parker. George Mikan won all 5 of his titles with Hall of Famer Jim Pollard. Bob Cousy won all 6 of his titles with Bill Russell. Robert Horry certainly did three-peat with the Lakers after repeating with the Rockets, but it's hard to say that he led any of those teams. To underscore the point, Kobe three-peated, then repeated. No one else has even repeated twice. It's one thing to be a great player on a great team that dominates the league for a time. Isaiah Thomas's Pistons, Hakeem Olajuwon's Rockets, LeBron's Heat. It's quite another to do it again. In other words, what if Joe Dumars had signed elsewhere and Thomas's Pistons had gone back-to-back, or if LeBron, after leaving Wade and Bosh, repeats in Los Angeles. No great has done it except Kobe Bryant, and Kobe three-peated and repeated. One may ask, why is winning back-to-back better than winning 2 out of 3? The answer is that defending a title is more difficult. The 1979 Sonics, that didn't have a 20-point-per-game score, they won the NBA championship. But only transcendent teams in NBA history have repeated. When we talk about three-peats, no NFL team has three-peated. Several teams and therefore players have repeated. Tom Brady has 6 Super Bowl wins, but he has not defended a title since 2003 and has only repeated once. Charles Haley is perhaps the closest to come to this accomplishment. He never three-peated, but he does have 5 rings with the Cowboys and 49ers. He was a Pro Bowler in all but one of his Super Bowl seasons. Haley's case begs a question. Let's say I agree that a defensive player like Lawrence Taylor of the Giants or Ray Lewis of the Ravens or Reggie White of the Packers and Eagles can in fact lead a team. Is it fair to say that Haley led his teams when the Cowboys' offense was chock full of Hall of Famers? Besides the Hall of Fame Big Three of Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin, Larry Allen, regarded as one of the greatest offensive linemen in history, was on that team. The Niners had arguably the greatest player in NFL history in Jerry Rice. The Niners also had the quarterback that many until recently thought was the greatest quarterback in NFL history, Joe Montana. Haley wasn't even ranked one of the best 100 players of all time by USA Today earlier this year. Several of Haley's teammates did make that list, and Jerry Rice was at the top of it. I think it's fair to say that Haley has been underrated as a player due to his well-documented conflicts and altercations. He certainly was a great player on 2 great teams, but that he was not the leader of his teams, similar to a Dennis Rodman. Joe Montana won all 3 of his Super Bowls with the 49ers and did not get to the Super Bowl with Kansas City. Jerry Rice did get back to the Super Bowl with the Raiders but did not win. Several Pittsburgh Steelers, Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swann, Joe Green, and Franco Harris, to name a few, did win 4 titles in 6 years with the 70s, but they did it together. None of the great players in NFL history, from Walter Payton to Peyton Manning to Lawrence Taylor, defended Super Bowl championships with different rosters. In professional baseball, Reggie Jackson is the only player in recent history that makes the claim of having led 2 distinct dynasties. The problem with Jackson's case is that Hall of Fame pitcher Catfish Hunter played with Jackson on all 5 of his championship teams. David Cone won 1 with Toronto and 4 with the Yankees. The New York Yankees having 27 World Series titles, a lot of Yankees have multiple rings. The thing is, they won them together. In the history of the Major League Baseball, only 4 players, all Yankees, have defended titles with different Hall of Fame teammates: Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig, and Babe Ruth. In professional hockey, in spite of the dominance of the Montreal Canadiens, I can only find Red Kelly, who led different teams to repeat championships. It's not quite the same parallel example, but Tom Brady and Bill Belichick parted ways this year. We also saw Kevin Durant leave the Golden State Warriors. We saw Kyrie Irving do the same. All of these divorces were done for the same reason Kobe jettisoned Shaq. These men wanted history to record that their success was a product of their own greatness and not someone else's. With that said, it's quite remarkable that so few players that have left great teams or had great players move on have been able to recreate sustained greatness. 6 championships have always been the one-sentence rejoinder to any challenge to Michael Jordan's status as the GOAT of the NBA. My contention is that 6 titles was not as impressive as was three-peating and then repeating without the same.
Pippen goes right back at it, but then loses it to Rice. Pippen has scored 8 of the Blazers' last 10 points. But the turnover there.
Kobe loves these kind of moments. He loves to look for this shot.
Head of the key to the side for Harper, who's wide open.
Ron Harper.
12